Hey everyone, Mark here from Warp Whistle Gaming, and this is Splatoon 2 101, where we're going to give you some tips and tricks to get you better at the game of Splatoon 2. Now, there are a lot of people that have the Switch and missed out on Splatoon 1, or maybe you played Splatoon 1 and you just want to get a little bit better. This is an introductory video for Turf War. We're not going to get into ranked. We've already done a video about gear, so go back and watch that one if you want to learn how to get the best loadout and what everything means as far as weapons and gear slots and all that kind of good stuff. But this one is all about Turf War, so let's jump right into a match. So the first thing you're going to notice is once the match starts, I cover the spawn area. This is something that's very important that a lot of people miss. People need to realize that these are easy points that you can grab. The kills in this game don't really matter until you get into ranked mode. The kills really just help you push the other team back. So you want to cover your spawn. You want to cover as much ink and as much ground as possible. So always make sure that you or another teammate covers that spawn. If you don't notice someone else doing it, they're easy points to grab because the other team doesn't usually make it back that far. They might make it to, past center. Even if they wipe you out, those spawn points are usually yours to keep. Some of the spawns in some of the stages are almost impossible to get to, and this makes it a really great place to rack up some easy points that are going to stick with you for the rest of the game. One thing that I notice is people don't usually know how to approach Splatoon when they first start to play. If you're like me, you're used to playing Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, and other shooters. If you approach Splatoon like that, you're not going to win, or you're at least not going to help your team as much as you could be. Sure, kills really count, and they help your team by pushing the other team back and making them go back to spawn. But the real thing that you want to focus on in Splatoon is covering the floor with ink. Now, you may have noticed that I put an emphasis on floor. What I mean by that is don't color the walls. You can if you want to use it for an escape or to get to another level, but covering the walls with ink doesn't count towards your points. What counts is what you can see from that overhead map. So if you're curious of what's covered and what's not, press X and bring up the map. This will show you where your teammates are, but can also show you some areas that may have been ignored, that are easy to run to and get some quick points, especially back at the spawns on both sides. So if you can get to one on the other side, that's great. But a lot of times you'll notice that you guys may have rushed to center and forgot something on the wings. After you get killed, or even after you start, those are some places where you want to focus to help your team and to get more. Don't forget, if everyone else is battling out in the center, you're probably not going to get many points going there and doing that exact same thing. You want to focus on what's around everyone else, and if you come across someone, feel free to kill them, but that's not what your focus is here. Your focus is covering ground, and the only time you really should be covering walls is to escape, to hide, or to reach a higher level. As far as bombs and specials are concerned, my approach is usually to just let them fly. If it's mid-match, let loose. If you have a special, don't save it up, don't wait. Fire off at will. Take as much of the other team out as you can. Help your team, cover as much ground as you can. If it's a shield, use that to help your team gain more ground and gain more points. You may want to wait till you're all together and you're trying to cover an objective, but for the most part, just let them go. If you're down in the last 30 seconds, however, you might want to consider holding that special off, especially if it's a projectile. What I mean by that is, in the last 30 seconds of gameplay, or throughout the most of the game, things like the missiles or something that splats a lot of ground can easily be dodged and then covered back up. For the most impact, you want to save that for the last 10 or even the last couple of seconds in a match, so you can cover a lot of ground, maybe take out a couple of enemies, but for the most part, you just want to cover some ground and not get that covered back up. So if you fire it off right before the clock ticks down, those will still count to your points, but the other team won't be able to retaliate. One last piece of advice I can leave you with is just go for it. As long as you're covering ground, nothing else really matters. So go in, take those crazy risks, try to jump into the other team's area, and just go for it. You might get killed, but guess what? The kills don't matter. As long as you're covering ground, that's all that matters towards your team. If you do get killed, or if you have 3 of the other team chasing you, guess what? It doesn't matter because they're distracted and not covering ground. You can cause a lot of mayhem just by not allowing anyone to progress. So if you see a sniper, stand just outside of his range and just start painting. They'll eventually get fed up and move on to something else, which might leave you open to an attack or let you cover the ground that you two were just fighting over. That's it for now. I hope this was a useful video for you, and I hope you learned something. If you liked the video, hit subscribe and share with your friends. If you didn't, let us know what we can do better next time in the comments. If you like the Warp Whistle and you want to hear more, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Acast, and other podcast services. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/warpwhistlegaming and on Twitter and Instagram, _warpwhistle. If you want to have a great group of people to play Splatoon with and other online games, join the Super Indie Podcast LFG group. They're a great group of people, including all the great podcasts that are on the dayspace.com network. So you can find the Warp Whistle at dayspace.com/warpwhistle. There's written reviews there, as well as all of our backlog of shows. The Dayspace Podcast Network is a fantastic place to find new, exciting podcasts all the time with some really great content. We'll hope to see you there. Until next time, stay fresh.